Today we have with us the amazing author, Teri Brown. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast, Rise and Tell with Sheekha. Our guest for today is Teri Brown. I have not been this energized in a while after a podcast session. Teri is this energetic 60-something amazing author and a podcaster. Can you believe it? She is the author of 5 novels. Some of them are Daughters of Green Mountain Gap and Enemy Like Me and Sunflowers Beneath the Snow. 10 Little Rules for a Double Butted Adventure is the book that she's the most proud of. And that talks about her inspirational journey cross country riding tandem with her husband. This released in the February of 2025, and that ride that they did, it was around 3,000 miles in the summer of 2020. During this journey, Teri healed, and she talks about those 10 rules. I was inspired by everything that Teri has done till date. She started her first podcast, and she's actually great at it. She came out of an abusive 14-year marriage, and then after that ride, she finally decided that she's going to publish her books and that she's going to be an author. 14 months later, she was a published author. Isn't that awesome? She's a public speaker. She's given a TED Talk, and now she's a podcast host. She is inspirational, motivational, and she's awesome at just doing what she puts her mind to. So without further ado, here is Teri Brown. Welcome, Teri. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really great, and I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, Teri. And I'm very excited because I was intrigued by your profile, and now I'm really excited to know your journey as an author and how your actual experiences affected the story behind whatever you've published till date. So let's get started, Teri. Let's just dive right in. I want to know what your story is.
Oh, so that's when people start there, it's like, I don't even know where I'm supposed to start with that. It was just very normal. I had a very normal childhood. I had a brother. I had a cat. I had mom and dad. We lived in Ohio. My parents moved when I was in the middle of my freshman year in high school.
Okay.
And that was probably the first time that I had like something big in my life happen that I didn't like. Like other than, mom fixed something for dinner I didn't want. I mean, it was like, it was huge for me because it was the middle of my freshman year in high school, which was a very difficult time to just up and move. And although Ohio to North Carolina doesn't seem huge, it's a big difference. And there were a lot of social differences. There were a lot of, I couldn't understand things that were being said to me. There were a lot of word choices that were very different, a lot of things. But then I kind of settled in and I became North Carolinian. I still live here in North Carolina and I love it here. Well, I graduated from college. I got married. I had 4 children. I got divorced. I got remarried. And when I got remarried, that was probably, I would say, like the biggest mistake that I've ever made because he turned out to be emotionally abusive. And maybe there were warning signs. I didn't see them. And it still bothers me to this day because I'm normally a good judge of character and I just don't know how that got by me. But once I recognized it, I was unwilling to get out of that relationship because I didn't want to be divorced twice. Right. I didn't want the stigma of like, she can't even pick a good husband. I don't know what it was. So I stuck with that for 14 years. And while in that relationship, I started writing for small businesses.
Okay.
So a lot of businesses, you have to figure this was around 2000 when I got started with this. Okay. And businesses were just then beginning to put their things out on the internet. Right. So they're starting to create websites, but nobody knew what they were doing. And a lot of things that went out on the internet was really bad. It was poorly written. I wanted to be able to stay home with my kids. So I was able to do this kind of in my own time around my kids' schedule. And it really worked for me. In 2017, I finally got out of that bad relationship. And when I did, words began pouring out of me. I had been wanting to write fiction, but I was terrified because that's like all of you. That's your creativity. And if you put that out there and the world doesn't like it, it's kind of scary. And if you're living in an abusive situation, now it's really scary because you don't even have a safe place to land.
Correct.
I got out of that relationship and the words started pouring out of me. But like I tell people, just because you get out of a bad relationship doesn't mean you immediately become healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So I wasn't showing my work to anyone. Like I was writing manuscripts, but nobody was really seeing them. I met Bruce, who became my third husband, and he was like my cheerleader from the beginning. And he just kept saying, what you're writing is fabulous and you really need to show it to people. And then he told me something. He said, I've always wanted to ride across the United States on a bicycle. Well, I had been wanting to do something big and bold. I thought that I needed to prove to the world that I still had value. And I thought, well, that would be an adventure. That would be big and bold, especially since I hadn't been on a bicycle in 40 years. Exactly. So this was way outside my comfort zone. And so I said, count me in.
Oh, wow.
And before long, we were talking about marriage, but more than that, I wanted to go on this adventure.
Right.
And then we got married, and then we decided we're going on this adventure, and then COVID hit.
Oh, no.
And so it almost canceled everything because we were supposed to leave in May of 2020 and everything was closed in May of 2020. But by the end of May in 2020, we realized things are opening up and we might be able to do this ride. If we can leave by July 15th, we can still make it across the United States before it gets too cold. And we actually left, I think, on June 29th.
Wow.
And so we started in Astoria, Oregon, and we rode all the way to Washington, D.C., and that's 3,102 miles for those of you who want to know how many miles that was. And along the way, I started healing. I started getting rid of all of those doubts and those fears and those anxieties and all the things that had kind of been heaped on me during those 14 years of abuse. And when we got into Washington, D.C., we stopped at the Marine Corps Memorial. My husband was a 25-year Marine. We were raising money for Toys for Tots. It just seemed like the perfect place to stop.
Right.
And he said, do you see that flag? We were going up a hill. And I said, yeah. And he said, that's it. That's where we're stopping. And I started to laugh and cry and laugh and cry. I was just a big mess. And I thought, I can do anything I put my mind to. Like, it's not a matter of can I do it? It's a matter of what do I want to do? And I thought, I want to be an author. And 14 months later, my first book came out.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, Teri. Wow. That felt like a bolt of inspiration from that whole story. It is inspiring. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
You deserve it. And second, where did you get that energy from?
You know, I think I've always had that in me, and I think so many people have inside of them what they need.
Yeah.
But the world and life and things that happen to us kind of get buried sometimes, and we don't even believe we have it anymore. And we keep looking outside of ourselves to find what it is that we need when really it's in here.
Correct.
I tell people all the time now that I've kind of experienced that for myself, you've got what you need. And if you can't find it, then find someone who can help you find it. Maybe it's a pastor, maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's your parent, maybe it's a therapist, maybe it's a book. I don't know what it is, but what you need is in you. Right. And now it's just a matter of letting it out and maybe learning a few skills here and there that can help to make it better. But what you have inside of you is all you really need.
Wow. You know, one thing that just crossed my mind is the fact that Teri, while you were there, while you saw that flag and you decided you're going to publish a book and be an author, you just didn't leave your dream. You worked on it and you actually did it. And I feel that's the biggest achievement that anybody can, you have to be very proud of it, because I've seen a lot of people, including me, who will create a goal and who will say, yes, I want to become this. I want to become that. But 14 months, 15 months, or even years go by and then there's nothing like there's no result. So I want to know what led you to become that author that you wanted to be all this while after 14 months.
I think that there comes a point, and maybe it's my age. I don't know. I'm 61. So I was 56 at that point. And so maybe there just comes a point where you say, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Like nobody can stop me. I think some of it too is, like what is resilience? And resilience is falling down and getting back up.
Correct.
And it's more than that. Instead of focusing on the falling down, you focus on the getting back up.
Yeah.
And the more you focus on the fact that you got back up, the more you realize that you can keep getting back up no matter how many times you fall. I have this thing that I do in my head, and it helps me sometimes. I still get stuck in things and feel like, oh, I don't know if I can go for that. And I remind myself, what do you have right now?
Correct.
So, for instance, with this book, 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure, which is my life lessons I learned while on this ride, I had a publisher that I wanted to approach with this manuscript. And I didn't do it for months. I was afraid. I just kept thinking, oh, they don't really want it. If she wanted it, she knows me. She'd reach out to me. And I kind of talked myself out of it.
Right.
And then I said, what are you doing? And I asked myself the question, what do you have now in terms of this manuscript? And the answer is nothing. I have a manuscript that is not published and it's doing nothing. Okay. So if you go to this publisher and they do not accept it, what do you have?
You still have
the same nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Like nothing's changed. But what do you get if they say yes? And so I do that a lot too. And so I did some of that with the book. It's like right now I have manuscripts that are going nowhere because I'm showing them to no one. And I have nothing and I'm not published. And if I show it to someone who eventually accepts it, what will I be? I will be published.
Correct. 100% correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you've put it very beautifully, Teri. I want to know, did you self-publish this book or was it traditionally published?
So neither. It was hybrid published.
Oh,
I don't know if you've heard of hybrid publishing, but it's like self-publishing with a team.
Yes.
So hybrid publishers, it's self-publishing in that, you pay money to do it. But they have editors behind them. And so you get an editor and you get a proofreader and you get someone who can create your cover and you get someone who knows how to do all of that work to get it up onto Amazon and the other places without you having to learn all of those skills.
Yeah.
I wanted a team behind me because I didn't want a self-published book to go out and then to me be embarrassed by it because it wasn't professional enough. I wanted to make sure that I had a professional team behind me. So I went with Atmosphere Press and they did a really good job for me. All three of my novels are with them. I knew nothing when I just said, I'm going to be a writer. And I just went and did it. Like I didn't have years of classes and experience and writer friends and a community. I had none of that. I just said, I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I had that little bit behind me to kind of make sure that I was, on the right road and not doing something crazy.
That's awesome. Congratulations again, Teri. Let's talk about your podcast. I am so excited. Those were the two reasons why. One, you are a published author, and two, you have a podcast just like me. So how did that thought cross your mind and when did you start it?
Okay, so my podcast is called Online for Authors, and I talk with indie and small press authors who I just feel like we don't have a platform. We don't have a great place to jump out and say, hey, here's my book, get to know me. I think the idea first came to me. I was maybe 3 or 4 months published. I realized that I needed to learn about marketing and I knew nothing about it. I sat and kind of waited for my book to sell and it didn't. And I thought, Oh. And so I kind of said, okay, I need to figure all of this out. Yeah. And I didn't even really know about podcasts. I mean, I kind of knew that they were there, but I didn't know a lot about them. And one of these marketing guru guys I was listening to talked about a podcast. And he said, you should try to be a guest on a podcast. And I thought, okay. Mm-hmm. So I started looking up podcasts of, that talked with authors and I started writing letters and I got on my very first podcast as a guest and I was terrified, utterly terrified. I didn't eat all day. My stomach was a mess. I showed up a half an hour early, sat there like this waiting, I was terrified. But when we were done and I thought, well, that was actually kind of fun.
It was,
because it was just a conversation. We happened to have a camera on, but it was a conversation. So I did another one and then I did another one. And then I had done maybe 3 dozen and then I had done like 4 dozen. It was like, wow, I really like this. And I thought, I wonder if I could be a host. Well, then I had someone that I had been on his show asked me if I would be his co-host.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, sure, that sounds fun. And it was a good introduction for me because I didn't have to do any of the work.
Right.
Okay. I didn't do any of the editing. I didn't have to do any of the marketing. I didn't pick the people that came on. I just showed up once every other week and we chatted with authors. And I thought, this is beautiful. Then I was on another podcast. It was online for authors. Her name was Jennifer. And she contacted me after I'd been on her podcast twice. And she contacted me and said, I think I'm going to give up my podcast. I'm tired. I don't really like it anymore. Would you be willing to be a guest host for a little while I try to figure out what I'm doing?
Right.
And once again, it was perfect because I didn't have to do anything other than show up. And I did a guest, I think I guested maybe 4 or 5 times for her. And then she said, I'm definitely getting rid of the podcast. Do you want it?
Wow.
And my answer was no. I told her no. I said,
what?
No.
Oh.
I said, I don't have time. There's just no way. I don't have time. But tell me a little more about it.
Right.
So she did. And then I said, I don't think so. Well, like financially, give me a little bit of like, how much money are you putting into it? Okay. How much time? I mean, I'm doing all of this. Right. And then I heard from one of the guests that I had been the guest host with, and he had written it's a family memoir. It was a Holocaust family memoir. Okay. And I was actually a little afraid of that particular interview because I didn't want to say the wrong thing. You know, True. It's a sensitive topic, and I wanted to be sure that I was respectful and asked good, appropriate questions. It made me a little nervous, but I got an email from him that thanked me and told me that he felt like I had listened to him, that he had been heard, that it was one of the better podcasts that he had been on, that the experience was so good. And I finished reading that email and I contacted Jennifer and I said, yes, I'll take it.
Oh, incredible. Incredible. I feel like you are the best example, Teri, when people say age is just a number. Okay. And it's never too late to start anything.
Maybe it is too late to start some things. I'm never going to be like an ice skater. Like I can't go and do something like that at this stage of my life. And sometimes technology gets the best of me. And I think, oh my gosh, if they keep switching things all the time, why can't they just leave it the way it was? But no, I think that for people who say, oh, I'm too old, I don't think so. I don't think you can be too old. I also don't think you can be too young. You know, if you want to do something, go do it.
Correct.
You know, right. And when you said earlier, you said that, you know, you want to do something and you make a goal and you don't get it done. And part of that, I think, is how much do you really, really want it?
Correct.
Because if you really, really want something, then things that get in your way, you're going to find a workaround.
Correct.
And if you don't really want it, they will be the thing that stops you. In fact, if you don't really want it, anything can stop you.
Exactly.
Something as simple as the sun rose this morning. Nah, I'm not doing that today. I mean, do you know, so you have to want it. You figure when we rode across the United States, we had to have wanted it. We went during COVID. Yeah. COVID could have stopped us, and there isn't one person in the world who would have looked at us and said, well, that's crazy. I don't know why you didn't go anyway. I mean, instead they were looking at us like, you're going during COVID? Yeah. Are you out of your mind? But we wanted to go. You know, I was 55. My husband was 67. I mean, we shouldn't have been going. There's a lot of reasons we shouldn't have been going, and yet we went.
Wow.
And it's because we wanted it. Wow. And I think that has a lot to do with success. Do you want it? Because if you do, you'll find a way around all of the barriers, and you're going to have barriers. There's going to be barriers that are thrown up. I can guarantee it.
Correct. I agree. And I also feel like everybody needs to have certain kinds of check-ins with themselves. Yeah. And they need to make time where they're sitting down with their thoughts and actually asking themselves that exact same question. How bad do you want it?
How bad do you want it? Yeah.
Yeah. And how much are you willing to sacrifice or make changes in order to get that done? I remember when I think it was June, the end of June and the beginning of July here, I was just browsing through Instagram and I realized someone said, oh, we only have 6 months left. And a coworker of mine, funny enough, the next day he said, "Oh, you know what? We are closer to 2050 than we are to 2000 something."
Right.
Like, wow, 2025 is done. Half of it is done.
We're almost done with 2025. It's like, how did that happen? Right.
Exactly.
But it's one of the reasons why I tell people now that I no longer believe in a bucket list. Right. I don't like the idea of a bucket list. I don't want to pass from this earth with a list of things I wish I had done. I would rather pass from this earth with a list of things that I'm in the process of trying to do. So I tell people, if you have a bucket list,
right,
go through it, find the one or two things that really mean something to you, take them off the bucket list, throw the rest of the bucket list away, and take those two things and say, what can I start doing to make these a reality?
Yes.
I would rather be 1/3 of my way into something like that and leave this earth than have a list of 27 things that I never touched.
Correct. And I also feel like, the more you start doing things and ticking things off your list, the more you're like, okay, what's next? Right. What can I do next? So like you just published one book and now you have 3 books that are out there.
I actually have 5 out there now. So I have 3 novels. I have my memoir, and then I just wrote a children's picture book that came out in April.
Wonderful. Congratulations
Thank
again,
you.
Teri.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is so cool. See, now again, that's what I think. If you would have stopped after coming back from your amazing ride and that adventure, if you would have stopped and let life gotten into the way, I don't think this would have happened. But you're awesome.
It wouldn't
have
let
that happen.
Yeah. It's life has a way of just getting in the way. You get busy again. You start doing things, and it's one of the reasons I have trouble writing here at home in my office because I hear the dryer buzz and I realize, I got to get those dishes in the dishwasher, and I didn't get that thing out of the freezer for dinner, and all of those things. I do better writing somewhere else.
Someone finally understands what I go through. Thank you, Teri.
For me, I love to go to a writer's retreat where I have no obligations. And by a retreat, I don't mean like a conference where you have classes and things to take. I mean a retreat that you have a space.
Yes.
Here's your writing space. No one is going to bother you for the next X number of days. Yes. And then at the end of that period, I always have a load of things that I have written because I didn't have anything to bother me. I didn't have to take the dog for a walk, and I didn't have to feed anybody other than myself. And I only ate when I was hungry, and I didn't care what time it was. I just did it when it needed to be done versus, what time is I need? Right. And so for me, I love my office. I love my home. I just have trouble creating from this space because when I'm at home, I'm also many other things.
Exactly.
And when I'm on a writer's retreat, I am one thing. I am a writer.
Correct. I love that. I wish more people understood that, especially families of people who want to be writers and families of writers right now. When I tell my husband that, you know what, I think I need to go to a cabin somewhere where there's nothing, just me, and, I can finish the book. And he goes, why can't you write at home? What's stopping you from, doing this here?
And it's like, let me give you a list. And it starts with eggs and butter and all of the other things I have to get from the grocery store this week. And it ends with laundry. And it's just, I don't know if that's just a human thing. Sometimes I feel like it's more of a woman thing. We have this need to make sure that all of those things are taken care of. Maybe not as much in your age group as mine, but I don't know. I was brought up and I'm supposed to keep the house. And if I'm in here writing and I get into the zone, I can write for hours.
Correct.
And if I'm writing for hours, I can guarantee you that the laundry is not being done and the dishes are not being done and there hasn't been any food prepared. And you're hungry, go eat a bowl of cereal. Leave me alone. I'm writing. I think the other thing that I find interesting is I'll say that I need to write and then I'm told, okay, we'll leave you alone. And then the next thing you know, someone's standing right here.
Exactly.
Quietly. And I'll turn. Yes. Can you help me out in the garage when it suits you? It suits me right now. I'm already been interrupted. I can't, and no one seems to understand that that you just took me completely out of where I was.
Correct.
And now it's going to take me 30 minutes to get back there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to have to reread what I was writing. I'm going to have to try to, what was I thinking at that point when I wrote this half sentence that I stopped in the middle of? Like all of those things, right?
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Wow. I agree 500% with that, Teri. I am so glad that someone else finally understood what I kept saying to my family.
Have your family listen to this little part of the segment so that they understand. There's just something, I think there's something really valuable about getting away. And, you know, there are definitely, I know that there are some jobs that you're allowed to take, you know, these little, you know, time away. They've learned that the reason that you do that, you give them time away, is that's when they can write that book or that paper or do that research or whatever it is that they're supposed to be doing. You've given them the opportunity to say, all of these other obligations that I have, I'm going to put on hold and I'm going to go take care of this little thing. And I love going. In fact, I'm actually going on a writer's retreat. I'll be gone the entire month of August.
Awesome. Where is it?
It's in Woodstock, New York.
Wow. Yep. Love it.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I can't wait.
Nice. This is awesome. Well, Teri, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
So now that you started acknowledging the fact that you're a published writer and you've published 5 books out there, what are the top 2 tips that you would give to anybody who's trying to juggle life, family, and all the other responsibilities, but also has stories like you do, and they want to publish a book?
The first thing I tell people is go ahead and start now. Start writing now. And if that means that you have 5 minutes, then write for 5 minutes. If you can find a way to have an hour or even an hour a week, then take that hour and do the writing. Don't wait for a class. Don't wait for the right time. Don't wait till your kids grow up. Don't wait until you have a degree in something. Don't wait. Because you'll never get better at writing until you actually start writing. It'd be like me saying that I could learn to play tennis simply because I waited for the right amount of time. You know, it's never going to happen. I could only get good at tennis if I played tennis. Correct. You're only going to get good at writing by actually writing. And the first thing you write isn't going to be any good. You're going to write it and you're going to look at it and you're not going to like it. And there's going to be a reason you don't like it because you're not good at it yet. And it's going to take some time. So don't wait until, now I have all the time in the world to get started, because you're going to then have another year or 2 before you can actually, you know, get it out to the world. Right. And I think the next thing is once you've written and you're starting to like what you've written and you think, well, this is, you know, I think I like this. Find a critique group.
Correct.
Or a critique partner, someone who is both kind and honest, right? You don't want someone who is, you know, like I could give it to my oldest daughter and she would be so kind and would never tell me anything that was wrong.
Yeah.
Right. That's not helpful.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you don't want to give it to someone who's just brutal.
Correct.
Right. You want someone who can say, these are some really good aspects. Here's a few things that I see that might make it stronger. And then take what they have to say into consideration and do something with it.
Yes.
You know, you can't keep writing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and expect to get better. You actually have to make some changes, but sometimes you don't know the changes to make. You're very, like, I get very in tune with my work. I become part of the scene and the characters, and I don't see the problems. Right. Because the characters are living in my head and I know everything there is to know about them. And I don't recognize that I didn't tell you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it takes that other reader to look and say, I don't understand why the character's doing this.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, because of this and this and this and this. And they're like, you never told me that.
Yeah.
Oh, you know.
I agree. Wow. I agree. I had the exact same experience for the second book that I'm actually writing now. When I came up with the idea of it, I shared it with my husband and then a coworker of mine who's a sci-fi fan. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it was all in my head, but that was the first time that I actually put it on paper. And I just sent them like a very brief overview and like some 6 or 7 bullet points. And then both of them gave me certain pointers that were so easy that made me think, I'm like, why didn't I think of this?
You're too close.
Yeah. And second, when they pointed out certain things like, oh, you know what? How do you think you're going to handle this feature? Or how do you think you're going to handle this part of it? this doesn't make sense. Or if I was talking about a certain disease, they were like, oh, yeah, there's still some stigma about it. But, you're talking sci-fi. Why don't you change this to something more appropriate? Like, wow, yes, that definitely makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think it's so interesting. My second book that I wrote, when I turned it into my editor, she wanted me to get rid of one of the characters. She said, he doesn't have an arc. You don't need that character. Well, to me, that character was central. I couldn't even imagine the book without that character. And it crushed me. Because I thought, oh my gosh, she just doesn't understand me. She doesn't understand my book. So I sat with it for a while, but I finally went back to her and I said, I just disagree.
Right.
She said, this character doesn't have an arc. And here's how you can tell. Pull all of the pieces out with just the character and read them. And you'll see he's flat. Well, guess what? She was right. What she was wrong about is that I did not need to remove him. I needed to make him stronger. And I went in, and all of those times where I kind of alluded to his growth, I actually created a chapter.
Nice.
And then I sent it back to her and she said, yes, now I like this. So, but I couldn't see it for myself because in my mind, I had told you, I even alluded to it, but you can't just do that in a book because your readers don't live in your head.
Correct. I agree. This is awesome. Teri, I had such a fun time. Before we end the show, is there any suggestion that you would like to give to our listeners and viewers in terms of publishing a book?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people out there who fear things like self-publishing or fear things unless it's like the very traditional way of publishing. There's more than one way to publish. Find what works for you. There's more than one way to write a book. Find what works for you. What do you plot? Do you pantser? You figure out what works for you. Don't get caught up in those nitty-gritty details of what is right. If you get the book out and you get it out into the public, you did it right.
Correct.
And so there's just more than one way to do it. And so don't get caught up in I'm only an author if a traditional publisher picks me up, or I'm only an author if you're an author as soon as you write your book. That's when you're an author or when you start writing that book. And so you need to kind of give up those preconceived ideas of what makes a person an author.
Yes.
And allow yourself to be successful.
Awesome. I know that I said this is going to be the last question, but I actually have one more.
That's all right.
Because I'm just so inspired. What would be your biggest suggestion or advice to people, not just to women, but anybody who is currently going through what you were going through with a bad marriage, or anybody who, has become way too comfortable in their relationship and does not have that strength to even acknowledge it and get out of it and do something about it?
There was a time I knew that I needed to go and I couldn't yet.
Right.
And so I think the first thing I want to do is let people know, if you know someone in that situation, you need to be standing there as their friend and ready when they're ready. Because forcing someone to do something before they're ready, they're going to go back. It's not going to stick. They're not going to feel good about it. They have to feel good about it. I think the thing that helped me the most finally get to the point where I could leave, where I knew that this is what I needed to do, is I had a therapist who knew better than to tell me to get a divorce, because I would have just found another therapist. And instead, what she told me is you've been working on this marriage a really long time. Do you see any improvements? And I said, not really. And she said, okay, well, there's a lot of other areas of your life. There's family, your extended family. There's friendships. There's your work. There's your spiritual life. There's all of these other things. Let's start working on those. So as I began to strengthen all the other areas in my life that I had pretty much let go because I was so focused on trying to somehow salvage this marriage, when it came time to leave the marriage, I was strong.
Nice.
I was strong in all of these other areas. I had friends. Again, I had kind of let my friends go. I had strong relationships with my children. My job was doing better. I had more clients that I was working with. I was in a position when I decided to leave that I could do it. And so that's what I would say to people is, just make sure that you're not closing yourself off by focusing only on one aspect of your life. I'm not saying don't work on your marriage. By all means, continue to work on your marriage. But it isn't the only aspect of your life. There's all of these others. And if you're not succeeding in one area, but you're succeeding everywhere else, you feel a lot better about life.
Correct.
So yeah, don't get yourself so caught up that it's the only thing you look at.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Teri, for those amazing suggestions and thoughts. I really appreciate those. And I'm definitely sure that some of our listeners out there are going to relate to it. And I hope this is going to be helpful for some of them. Thank you for being a guest on our show, Teri. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And again, congratulations on your books.
Thank you.
I hope you learned a thing or two from this episode. You know what you got to do. Hit the like, comment, and subscribe buttons. I want to thank each one of you who has listened or viewed one of the podcast episodes or just binged watched all the episodes till date. I have a lot more interesting guests lined up for Rise and Tell with Sheekha. So as always, keep glowing, keep growing, and be yourself. This is your host, Sheekha Singh, signing off. Bye.